Senator, it's great to talk to you again here, and thanks again for being on this weekend on the Fox show.
Well, I love your show, but your September statement was pretty unnerving, really. Back in September, right after this thing happened, I think you smelled a rat early on, and so did I.
Well, it was so, to me, obvious that this was not the result of a video and a spontaneous mob. Something this elaborate and this effective against a consulate was not, you don't have people with RPGs just showing up at an embassy late at night just saying, hey, we'd like to have a little demonstration. That just didn't, it made no sense.
Well, it made no sense, but there was a breakthrough on Fox News Sunday. You had a Democratic congressman from Massachusetts, I think his name was Lynch, but he admitted that there never was a protest, and the whole storyline about a spontaneous riot caused by a hateful video mimicking Cairo never was legitimate, and that's important. When Susan Rice took to the airways, she told a story most favorable to the administration, because the difference between a spontaneous event and a pre-planned terrorist attack is night and day. You don't hold people nearly as culpable for an event they can't control versus something that was a long time in the making. So I think the president himself kept telling this story that it was a spontaneous event rather than a pre-planned terrorist attack, which takes you back to the warnings of Chris Stevens. So the storyline given by the White House is crumbling. And never forget, this is not about Susan Rice. This is about the White House and President Obama.
Well, Susan Rice obviously went with talking points that had been supplied to her by her own admission by both the White House and agreed to by the CIA, which we now learn was pressured. These talking points were thoroughly edited over a period of several days prior to announcements being made. Senator, it seems that the difference now is that other networks are paying attention to it. CBS had Darrell Issa on. CNN now is covering this story. This is no longer going to be relegated to just Fox News and talk radio.
Well, nor should it, because the reason that you and I are so insistent on getting to the truth, a bond has been broken by those who serve in dangerous areas in their government. I think trust has been broken between the people of the United States and this administration. Clearly, the storyline they tried to push after the attack was most politically beneficial. If the facts had come out this was an al-Qaeda-inspired attack, pre-planned, that cuts into the narrative they were selling 7 weeks before the election. But what you're going to hear from these witnesses about what it was like in Benghazi and Tripoli during the attack is going to make you mad. And I just can't thank Darrell Issa and Jason Chaffetz and hopefully some Democrats. This should be bipartisan. Don't you think, Mike? This is about people being left abandoned for 7.5 hours by ignoring warnings that were there for all to see and manipulation of the facts after the event for political reasons. I hope Democrats will take this seriously.
I don't see how they cannot, and I think you're mentioning Stephen Lynch taking, the position he did over the weekend was very significant. It reminds me back what happened when the Watergate story started breaking, and for a while it was a third-rate burglary. This is so immaterial, and then when Republicans, faced with facts, had to start breaking with their own president and calling into account for what had happened with the cover-up of Watergate, it was the beginning of the end for Richard Nixon. It appears to me that it's going to be impossible after these witnesses come to Capitol Hill this week. You've talked to some of them. You've visited with some of the people who are first-person witnesses to what actually happened. Senator, is it fair to say that the story that they're going to tell is going to directly contradict the official White House and administration version?
Completely and fully. It's going to be 180 degrees out, and I hope that will inspire Democrats, because Mr. Hicks, who is the number 2 guy there's not a political bone in this guy's body. I've been talking to him for months, and there are other people that have come to me on the CIA side who are very afraid to come forward. There's more information going to come. I think the dam is about to break, and you're going to find a system failure before, during, and after. You're going to find political manipulation 7 weeks before an election. You're going to find people asleep at the switch when it comes to the State Department, including Hillary Clinton. And we got to learn from this, and the only way you can learn is to get to the truth. And you got to remember, the president himself, for over 2 weeks, pushed the narrative that we think this was a spontaneous event inspired by video. There's no way in the world with any investigation that he could have kept saying that. So I just think the White House has to be looked at long and hard about manipulating the facts here.
Will we ever find out the highest level official who gave the order to not send in any special forces? We now know that special forces were poised and ready and had repeatedly asked for permission to go in and try to intervene, and they were told to stand down. And I know that Mr. Hicks will testify that his jaw dropped when later Hillary Clinton said she did not know of any requests for assistance and that there were no requests for assistance.
I think if we keep pushing, what Fox found out last week with a special operator, but there's CIA folks who have been contacting me through third persons that are very much in the camp of we could have done more, we should have done more. During the attack, it's very important to get to the facts and who did stop special operators from coming in if they were available. And if we find out there was a C-130 in Croatia with special operators available, if that turns out to be true, that contradicts the highest level of the Pentagon. You've got the State Department here in a compromised situation. You got the White House manipulating evidence and facts, and now you may have the Defense Department telling something that will not withstand scrutiny. I hope the American people will want to keep pushing. I'm going to keep pushing because the bond that's been broken, Mike, between those who serve us in harm's way and the government they serve is huge, and to me, every bit as damaging as Watergate.
Well, and in fact, I would say far more so because nobody died in Watergate. We have 4 Americans who are dead with not really a very good explanation as to why they died. Senator, it is always...
Thank you.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Well, the explanation was false. I mean, it was a contrived explanation that was beneficial to the president politically, not borne out by the facts. And this hearing Wednesday is going to be very important. Thank you, Mike, for keeping this in the public eye. And the next coming months are going to be very interesting. We got to stay on this. It really matters.
We will. Senator, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us, and we're anxious to see these hearings this week. 855-840-4825. More. Some that will shock you when we return.